Hey everyone, my name is Sarthar. I'm a second year law student at the National Law School of India University and a legal faculty at Calcutta. Today, we'll be looking into the Places of Worship Special Provisions Act of 1991 and the writ petition that was filed against it in the Supreme Court earlier this year in March. To that effect, we'll be looking at three aspects of this petition. First, we'll look into the Act itself. Then we'll look into the history of the Act and how it has come up before the Supreme Court earlier in the Ismail Faruqi case of 93 and the Ram Janmabhoomi case of 2019. And lastly, we'll look into the grounds of challenge that have been raised in this petition. So let us begin first with the petition itself, which is Ashwini Kumar Upadhyay versus the Union of India. Mr. Ashwini Kumar Upadhyay he's a lawyer as well as a spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party or the ruling BJP. And his petition challenges the validity of certain sections of the Places of Worship Special Provisions Act of 1991 or the Places of Worship Act. In his petition, presently there is a three-judge bench that was hearing it earlier. There was a three-judge bench that admitted the case, comprising Chief Justice Bobde, Justice Bopanna, and Justice Ramasubramanian. They issued a notice to the government to present their side of the case. And the broad argument that the petition brings before the Supreme Court is that the Act is in violation of Articles 14 and 15, that is the right to equality, as well as Articles 25, 26, and 29, which is the right to religious freedom, as have been guaranteed under the Constitution. To understand the grounds on which Mr. Upadhyay has raised this petition, we need to understand the history of the Act itself, what the Act specifies with respect to places of worship and how it has been treated in the past by the Supreme Court itself. To that effect, let's look at the Places of Worship Act itself. Foremost, it is important to note that the Act criminalizes any conversion of a religious place from one religion into another religion or from one sect into another sect. The cutoff date that has been mentioned under the Act is that of 15th of August 1947, the date of independence. It is so suggests that post-independence, whatever religious character is accorded to a place, that character cannot be changed, cannot be externally converted into something else. To that effect, the Act preserves the religious character of the place, and there can be no case that can be brought before any court stating that the religious character of this place is not right and that this instead should be the religious character, that this place of worship is not actually a Hindu place of worship, this is a Muslim place of worship, or this is not a Muslim place of worship, it's actually a Sikh place of worship. Such sort of suits should not be entertained by the court as what the Act imagines should happen. At the same time, any sort of conversion that has happened after the date, that conversion is invalid and criminal. Any person who has effected this conversion is a criminal under the law, and such conversion by itself is invalid. Now, the Act does not apply where different people from different sects have come together and acquiesced to a sort of conversion. Let's say that there are premises that were used for worship by one sect. They have decided to turn it over to another sect peacefully, or if there was a dispute at all, that dispute was settled between these sects, between these people amicably. If that is the case, then such conversion is not barred under the Act. But if there is a dispute, then courts cannot look into it. At the same time, any dispute under this case is also barred by limitation, and after a specific period of time, you can't really raise that dispute anymore. So all of these historic disputes, such as those in Kashi and those in Mathura, those cannot be raised under the Act. However, the Ram Janmabhoomi case or the Babri Masjid case, that case was specifically exempted under Section 5 of the Act, and therefore the 2019 judgment on that could come. Otherwise, the court could not have possibly looked into it. Now, the reason this limitation period is relevant is because there are several of these political sort of debates around the Kashi Vishwanath temple or the Eidgah in Mathura about how there are mosques created where temples used to be, and these debates are specifically barred. These disputes are specifically barred from the court through this Act. Now, the Act has been assessed by a court in the past, most significantly in the Muhammad Faruqi case of 93, where the validity of the acquisition of certain area at Ayodhya Act was challenged before the court. Now, the Act specified that the state will acquire the disputed land for itself and wait for the dispute to settle. However, this sort of acquisition was not found right. It was against the basic feature of secularism altogether. And what is relevant in this case is how the court treated the Places of Worship Act. In that, the court commented how the Places of Worship Act by itself also creates a lower criminal penalty than the IPC. And if the IPC could not stop people from demolishing the Babri Mosque, then the act also does not really have much force behind it. Even if it was enacted a year before the Babri incident, and even if it had a positive sort of intent behind it to prevent any sort of religious clash between communities on account of conversion of religious places, despite that good intent, the court was wary of what impact the act would really have. However, in the 2019 case, the court has really moved on from this position. In the 2019 Ram Janmabhoomi case, or as it is officially called, the Mohammad Sadiq versus Bahan Suresh Das case, in this case, the court has recognized the salience of the Places of Worship Act when looking at the question of whether there was actually a Ram temple at the disputed land in Ayodhya, and then deciding that such a temple did in fact exist and allowing such a temple to be constructed again at that land. In that case itself, the Supreme Court notes that the Places of Worship Act has a good reason for having 15th of August 1947 as the as the cutoff date beyond which conversion may not be allowed. It noted how at the time of independence, India became a democratic nation and had secular values. And in light of these secular values, we can't really keep digging into the past before India had gotten such independence. We can't keep digging into the past and raising old religious conflicts between communities. So by that logic, 15th of August 1947 was found to be a reasonable cutoff date. Any disputes prior to that ended in the colonial period, ended in that time. And even if there are political sort of notions attached to such disputes, the court would not like to look into it, and quite reasonably so. That is what the court noted in 2019. However, now Mr. Upadhyay's petition against the act raises three grounds of challenge. First is one of basic structure. He argues that the act takes away judicial review of disputes that may have arisen after the 15th of August and that may exist prior to that cutoff date. Like, what happens when these Mathura and Kashi kind of disputes continue even now? Will the court now not look into it just because the act says so? So Mr. Upadhyay argues that no, that should not be the case, that judicial review by itself is a basic feature. It's part of the basic structure and that cannot be curbed by the act. Second, he argues that the act violates the principle of secularism and equality since it applies differently. Now, there was a long period of time during which India had seen very successful and very significant Muslim rulers, and he alleges that some of these Muslim rulers in their reign, during their time of rule, had destroyed a number of these Hindu temples and other places of worship connected to Hindus, Sikhs, Jains and Buddhists, and they had constructed mosques instead of these places of worship, and therefore the application of the act is necessarily detrimental to these other communities, these other non-Muslim communities whose places of worship were destroyed. That is what his argument is, saying that the act itself is against secularism. And lastly, he argues that under Hindu personal law itself, the destruction of the temple does not mean that the land that was acquired in the name of a particular deity, a particular Hindu god, that land changes hands or changes title. He argues that these gods in whose name the land is, they are eternal beings. They continue to hold that land. And in fact, under Islamic law itself, under Muslim personal law, waqfs are supposed to acquire land for the construction of mosques. And since such acquisition has not taken place, Hindu gods continue to hold on to their title over the land, and the waqf boards do not have such legitimate title. Therefore, the construction of the mosque itself is argued to be illegitimate under Islamic law. In light of these three arguments, Mr. Upadhyay is arguing that the entirety of the 1991 Places of Worship Act should be scrapped, should be declared unconstitutional. Now, as I have already mentioned, the context within which the writ petition arises is that of the Eidgah at Mathura, and also broadly the political debate surrounding the Kashi Vishwanath temple as well, where like the Mathura Eidgah specifically is believed to be the birthplace of Lord Krishna. And due to the period of limitation in the act, the debate around whether or not the place is the birthplace of Lord Krishna cannot really happen in a court. While the Ram Janmabhoomi debate, that entire dispute was exempted under the act, section 5 of the act specifically said that nothing in this act applies to the dispute at Ayodhya. the act does continue to apply in the Mathura dispute. In light of which, to remove that limitation period, to remove the restriction of the act, the constitutional validity itself has been challenged. That is the sort of political context in which this petition arises. At present, outgoing Chief Justice Bobde had issued a notice to the Union of India in the present case and in effect admitted the case for hearing. However, since then there's not been much news on how it has gone ahead, and it might be a very interesting legal development since it has the potential to reopen the entirety of the Ram Janmabhoomi case itself, which itself noted that the act is a very significant part of how secularism in this country operates. And in case this petition challenges the act, then those foundational sort of points in the Ram Janmabhoomi case also come into question again. So the disruptive potential of this petition is something that may become quite interesting in the future. With that, we end this current video, and I'd like to thank you all for sticking around to the end of it. You can mail us any of your doubts at hello@plattutor.com, and for any feedback on this video, please leave a comment. Thank you.